These two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, it's time to put everything we've learned and a few things we haven't into action in our very own World Championship. It's great to win, isn't it? But it's better to win a championship, and it's even more of a brag if you can manage to beat 11 other cars to that championship crown. Can we do it? We can do a Rallyman championship in a number of ways, yes, but I don't know what my chances of winning any of them are. Buckle up folks, this is going to be a detailed one, pulling in loads of community created championship centric rules, and like everything you've seen in Rallyman so far, you can pick and choose what you like the sound of for your own tabletop championship. Let's see what we've got in store. We're going to have a short GT6 Championship today as we pit 12 cars around 4 circuits in search of success. Most of those cars will be AI of one kind or another, but one of them will be me looking to finish on the tallest of the top steps. Before anyone gets there, we're going to set up the championship using some of the rules from 2 rule sets, those being Rommix's career mode and BigRed's variant rules. Each has their own championship format, Rommix's being the simplest and BigRed's being more in-depth, and this Frankenstein's mashup will hopefully give you an idea of each, but I do of course recommend you check them both out in full to see which elements I didn't include. Our championship calendar looks like this: 4 races around some O'Daly circuits, Spa, Donington, Long Beach and Jarama. Some circuit characteristics are in effect, such as the urban environment of Long Beach, and the weather will be determined using Rommix's dynamic weather rules. Each race is 2 laps long, with the first 10 drivers to cross the line scoring points as per the Rallyman Championship expansion rules. The driver who scores the most points wins the championship, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Who, then, is driving? Let's get me out of the way. I'll be in the Ford Mustang looking orange car, and a quick search on the internet tells me that the best driver in one of those is fan favourite Joey Logano. The best thing since sliced bread, would you believe? I'll be sure to take his can-do attitude into the championship alongside Scott McLaughlin, who will drive the second car using O'Daly's driverless cars rules as a silver-rated driver. Rommix's championship rules require us to have a seasonal challenge that we're aiming for, and that D10 roll is a 2, so we are aiming to win 2 of these races before the championship concludes. It doesn't sound like one of the easiest to achieve, but who knows? BigRed's rules allow for some fairly detailed team management, so to help us get those wins, we're going to roll up some stats for how good our team is, and as the season progresses, we'll be keeping track of resources and maintaining our cars and crews so that they don't fall apart too often. I start the season as an experienced driver and can re-roll one of my dice each race. I could spend a couple of my resource points to bump up my skill level and give me another re-roll, but these resource points get spread across your entire team to buy spare parts or raise morale, and I'll only earn more with good results on track. So I think I want to play things a little more reactionary for the moment and wait and see what our first race result is before spending any of them. Luckily my pit crew are veterans and they have 2 rerolls available for anything they may need to do in the pits, which is going to be fixing any damage I pick up mostly, but there are a lot more things for them to think about in the full rules. For now though, don't think about them too much as we hop back over to Rommix's rules, as they want us to have a championship rival, so let's see who we're up against. If I'm channeling Joey Logano, my rival will have to be the appropriately named Chase Elliott, and he will be run as a difficulty 9 NPC using Dr. Worm's NPC rules. In the second red car is Brody Kostecki, who will again be run under O'Daly's driverless cars rules. The red team will have a seasonal challenge that they're aiming for as well, but I will not reveal that goal until the end of the championship. I'm going to assume their team management is top-notch and nothing to worry about. I'm certainly not going to keep track of it anyway, but I will still be rolling the odd die here and there to see if Chase has any problems before each race. To fill out the already very busy grid are 4 more teams. Each main driver will be driven under JCB's Ghost Car rules, and each second driver by O'Daly's driverless cars. As you might have worked out by now, I just want a whole bunch of cars to be moving while I'm battling Chase Elliott around each circuit. The Ghost cars will be a little more unpredictable than the driverless cars, but hopefully they won't cause too many problems. We'll split these remaining teams into rivals and give them secret seasonal goals as per Rommix's rules as well, so it's the green versus the yellow team and blue versus purple. As you can imagine, there's a lot going on and a lot more to keep track of, so expect some mistakes, but hopefully nothing that will impact the championship to the point where any of our drivers will try to go to court a few decades later to rewrite history. I won't be using redline rules, nor the likes of pushing and shunting, mostly because 11/12 of our competitors are AI of some kind, but do be aware that there are a few variant rules in BigRed's rules that human drivers can make use of to help them work their way towards the top step of the podium. With that, I think we're just about ready to get racing. The weather around Spa today is dry but highly unstable, so who knows what it'll do every other turn as per the dynamic weather rules, and there are 6 fewer green flag tokens in the damage bag thanks to the circuit's unforgiving characteristics, so we really don't want to crash. We could determine the starting grid using a number of qualifying methods. I'm going with BigReds, which allows me to spend a few of my spare parts to improve my D8 roll here. So I'm going to spend 1 spare part and 1 set of tyres to add to this roll, which is a total of 7, putting me into 4th on the grid, but a set of tyres down around Spa where the weather could do anything. On the way to the grid, we do a quick maintenance check, which we pass with flying colours, and the only other car we care about is Chase's, who would start with 1 fewer set of tyres were he to be a human, but he's an NPC, so we don't worry about that. We're only interested in whether he takes damage from these checks or not. So, to recap, I'm 4th on the grid, Chase is down in 9th. We both want to win, obviously, but who will? You really don't want to start at the back around Spa, and starting from the middle isn't much better as Kostecki solidifies his pole while Buch and Gounon back the field up. Elliott doesn't have a choice but to miss a turn as the front runners head up Eau Rouge and into Radion, and now it's Logano, Dumas and Lieb who will have to drop off the back of the pack. Buch and Kostecki side by side heading onto the Kemmel Straight. Gounon and McLaughlin not too far behind, but it's another story entirely at the back, where Logano, despite having the inside line, will have to watch a succession of cars navigate the chicane before him. Buch seems to brake far too early for Lecoombs as the field finally stretches out at the back, but look where Elliott finds himself, blocked behind De Resta, who was himself blocked behind Logano just moments ago. Luckily for Logano, the traffic ahead is spread out enough for him to weave through into 6th. Kostecki manages to get to the front through Lecoombs, but Buch looks to get the jump around the outside into Malmedy. Further back, Logano finds 6th gear when everyone else can't, and Elliott finds a 1st gear that he definitely doesn't want right now. Buch gets it wrong. It's Kostecki ahead of Gounon and McLaughlin. Logano continues to fend off Dumas and Lieb, and De Resta is causing all kinds of trouble for Elliott again as they finally make it to the Kemmel Straight. It's tight at the front and just as tight in the middle. Can Logano make his positioning work as Buch slips back? It's Kostecki from McLaughlin, the right colours but the wrong drivers as far as the team principals are concerned. Logano into Brussels, Elliott making progress at Malmedy, but who's this? Beretta from out of nowhere, it's carnage. Now Logano can't go anywhere, Elliott right on his tail. It's all change at the front too. Kostecki stumbling and Buch and Gounon can pounce, spanning the width of the track in 1st and 2nd. For those of you wondering what the weather is doing, it's getting even warmer, not a cloud in the sky. As the chaos unwinds around Speaker's Corner, all eyes are on the fight between Logano and Elliott. They've both been heavily blocked in this race. Logano started in P4, remember? How will he turn his fortunes around? Out of Stavelot, it's Buch with a dominant lead, nothing separating 2nd from 4th, and a spread out field of backmarkers which Logano and Elliott desperately want to weave through. Dumas edges out into 2nd place. I've no idea what's happened with teammate Lieb, who is running back in 12th now as the track gets congested and Logano is blocked again. Lieb has gone around the outside and Logano has got his positioning all wrong. He's too close to the apex and can only watch Elliott sail through the gap on the next turn. He'll have to watch his rival closely to learn how best to navigate these backmarkers, lest Logano become one himself. Dumas looking to overtake Buch for the lead. McLaughlin has taken charge of 3rd place out of the chicane. The field is well and truly spread out now, but why is Elliott not moving? He wasn't blocked, was he? No, a complete lack of concentration means he misses his turn and blocks Logano in the process. These two are in a race of their own, it seems, as are Dumas and Buch, already on the Kemmel Straight once more, and realising that, Elliott and Logano kick things up a gear as they speed their way towards Blanchimont, where there's been a spin. Johnny Adam is facing the wrong way. No damage to worry about whatsoever, but getting out of the grass and back up to speed will cost him, as will a horrible roll for Logano. 2 hazards on 2 coast ice. He remains in 6th gear, but a long way back. Dumas maintains the lead from Buch. McLaughlin remains ahead of Gounon. A pair of Whitmer and Beretta cross the line in tandem, and an incredible roll sees Logano catch up with Elliott before the chicane. But now McLaughlin is off. Yellow flags along the Kemmel Straight. It won't affect the race too much, I don't think, but that entry into La Source from Elliott and Logano probably will. Is that Kostecki blocking McLaughlin from re-entering the circuit? I think it is. Sneaky move there, sending McLaughlin back into 5th, soon to be 6th. Teammate Logano has gone into Eau Rouge a little bit too hot, considering where Whitmer and Beretta are, but how did he get there at all? What happened to Elliott? Brake failure for Elliott. Hazards on all of his brake dice meant he couldn't make progress that didn't result in a loss of control, so he's parked back at the source, quite literally. A change at the front as Boot goes around the outside of Dumas and Gounon now spins at Lecombes. De Resta finds himself in third from Kostecki, Beretta and Gounon finish the top six. Logano gets cut off by Whitmer into Malmedy, and Elliott is just a few corners behind but will have to go the long way around Lieb, and in doing so gives Logano a chance to escape. Dumas and Buch are side by side. Dumas has the pace coming into the chicane. De Resta is in third. There's still a battle for fifth in the background. Logano down through the hairpin and Dumas past the cheering crowds on the home straight. He'll take first place in round one of the championship. Buch will surely secure second. Drama at the bottom of the track as Kostecki now goes off, allowing Beretta and McLaughlin to fight for fourth. Beretta with the edge as they emerge from Stavelot where Logano has spun. Disaster for Kostecki and Whitmer there as the field ahead can carry on to the finish line. De Resta, Beretta, McLaughlin and Logano from Gounon is congested at the back as these five cars try to do whatever it takes to score points, and it's Elliott who eases to the head of that pack and tries to catch up with the cars ahead. Not the best of rolls for Logano means no last corner overtake on McLaughlin through the chicane. They will finish fourth and fifth, while Elliott does manage to get around the outside of Beretta. It has come too late in the day, and there's another place lost. Gounon has managed to slip past, but finishes one space before the finish line, and Elliott doesn't have time to overtake. It's seventh place for Gounon, eighth for Elliott, and a tight fight at the back sees Lieb and Adam pick up the remaining championship points. Here are the official driver results. Paul de Resta comes from 10th on the grid to secure the final spot on the podium, and pole sitter Kostecki drops 10 places to finish out of the points in 11th. Points are obviously vital for keeping track of who wins a championship, but with BigRed's rules, points also secure us more resources to spend on our team. The team championship is scored according to the position of the fastest car within each team, and the points earned each race will modify a D8 roll to award our team with resource points to spend on spare parts, tyres and so on. We've rolled a disappointing 4, plus our 3 points from the race means we have earned an average amount of extra resource points today. 3 more get added to our current pool of 6. We can use the points to buy all sorts of things, including cheering up our crew after a poor result. Did we come out of the first race feeling miserable? Well, we as Joey Logano rolled an 8, and we could spend some resource points to bump that up to a high enough result that gives us an extra skill point, and in turn another reroll in each race, which I did make use of, so it is a possibility. Otherwise there's no change for him, we're just happy to beat Chase Elliott. As for my pit crew, they had nothing to do today. The weather just got hotter and hotter, there was no damage pulls from the entire field of 12 cars, and their roll of a 3 gets modified down by their veteran status into a 1, meaning they definitely are disenchanted, and I don't think I can blame them. I can spend resource points to cheer them up, otherwise I risk them quitting and will have to find replacements. That, though, is a decision for another time. They haven't quit yet, after all. With that at the back of our mind, let's look towards race number 2. Donington plays host to this second round. There's nothing special about this circuit, but the heatwave is set to break and storms are on the horizon. Will they arrive before the end of the race? Eagle-eyed team principals spotted that Joey Logano used the flying start rule to get up to speed quicker after his spin in Stavelot, and are arguing that the likes of Chase Elliott might want to make use of such a rule himself. So as of now, the flying start rule is in effect. Only 2 cars can make use of it, but still, it's there if they need it. We have 9 resource points to spend. Knowing that damage isn't very likely unless we make a big mistake, I'm thinking we don't need to spend them on more spare parts. However, spare parts and sets of tyres can be used to bump up our qualifying place, so I'm going to spend 6 resource points on buying spare parts and see where we qualify. Well, at least we have spare parts should we need them. A roll of 8 puts us on pole, but right beside us is our rival Chase Elliott. If you remember, our aim of the season is to finish first in 2 races, which would be nice to do sooner rather than later, and this is clearly our best chance so far. Our teammates are down in 8th and 9th, so they're probably not going to be much help, and if the storm does result in rain, we're going to have to hope for a good time in the pits too. This is not a guaranteed result by any means. However, on the way to the grid, Chase is once again hit with a poor maintenance check, and this time he has damage to his car. Obviously, under the full rules, his team would have options to deal with that, but right now it's only going to add to my chance of coming out on top against a very difficult NPC. Let's see what happens as we wait for the lights to go out. We're hearing that Chase Elliott has brake damage going into this race around Donington, and those brakes will be put to the test as they all head into the first corner. Buch gets to the apex first and has the lead. Elliott and Logano come out the other side with great speed. Dangerous corners, the least of their worries today. But to say the rest of the grid have been bogged down is a bit of an understatement. Nobody else has managed to make it through to Redgate yet. Elliott and Logano reel Buch in at the old hairpin as the rest of the field slowly make their way into this race, all apart from Dumas, it seems, who has only just managed to cross the start line. Elliott has the edge over Logano and Buch. Lieb leads the midfield pack. Teammate Dumas has finally made it to the first corner. Logano tries to go around the outside at Coppice. They look to have dropped Buch behind them, and a long way behind him we have a spin for Lieb, and it's chock-a-block at the old hairpin. Down Starkey's straight, and there is nothing to separate the front runners and not a cloud in the sky. The storms are coming, we just don't know when. Logano forces Elliott through the hazards of the Fogarty S's, and Elliott takes the opportunity to show Logano he'll have to try harder than that. Gunon and Whitmer have managed to find a way through to McLean's as the rest of the field slowly work their way past the stricken Lieb. Logano gets the jump on Elliott and fends him off using the outside line. Elliott has nowhere to go and probably wishes his team had paid for a better brake disc between races. Smart use of those long spaces by Logano keeps Elliott in his mirrors. The field is starting to thin out a little. Gunon and Whitmer fight for fourth, then Adam, De Resta and Kostecki are trading places. McLaughlin watching from behind as Logano crosses the line for the end of lap 1. There's nothing Elliott can do in the braking zones and Logano can start to pull away. Speaking of pulling away, it seems Gunon has managed to create some distance from Whitmer, who's fending off Adam and De Resta as they go into the Melbourne hairpin. At the back, Lieb has spun again, but it's not because of the weather. Not yet, at least. But the rain is very, very close as Elliott tries to do everything in his power to get past Logano. Nothing is sticking, but he does have his nose in front through the Schwanz curve. Will he maintain a lead through the wet? It doesn't look like it as Logano pulls out a strong lead, and I think Elliott may have taken too much of a risk going into Coppice that fast. The track is getting slippery and we know he's got damaged brakes and he's spun. Chase Elliott is facing the wrong way. His tyres just don't have the grip. His brakes aren't what they used to be and Buch can sail through into second place. The pit crews are taking that as a sign for everyone to come in, though it seems a split strategy is in play for a great many teams. One car opting to try their luck in the wet, the other coming in for wet tyres. Logano might as well stay out as he slows for Melbourne. The win is surely his now. Buch might still spoil his day and Elliott can only hope he does. There's enough of a gap between the front runners and the midfield for him to still reach the podium, but the top spot is no more for Elliott as Logano crosses the line to finish first. Buch has taken quite a wide line around Goddard's though. What's happened there? Chase can get into second place here, and he does. Pipped at the line, it's Elliott in second, Buch in third. A fantastic recovery from the brakeless Elliott, and it looks like much further back his teammate Kostecki will need a great recovery as well. He's off at Starkey's Bridge. In fact, that off gives McLaughlin something to fight for. Kostecki sits in 10th, the last point-scoring position. Their respective teammates have already scored the team championship points for this race, but bragging rights around the paddock are just as important as McLaughlin looks for an overtake. He can't quite get it before McLean's, but he's going around the outside of Kostecki at Coppice, and this battle for the last point is getting hotter. The rain turning to steam as McLaughlin finds a way past Kostecki on Starkey's straight, Lieb joining the train behind them. McLaughlin with an early break into the S's. Kostecki and Lieb both go through. It's Kostecki in 10th as they head into Melbourne, and they're side by side going into Goddard's. Lieb now with the advantage, but he can't make it stick. Kostecki with the overtake and McLaughlin powering through to the line. It's McLaughlin that takes it just, and the fight for 10th place to the finish of this now very wet race was the best thing I've seen all day. A win for Logano, solid points for Elliott and Buch, and another disappointing result for Kostecki, who is the only driver yet to score a point in the championship. But it is the mid-season break, which means a couple of new things to think about, notably when it comes to Rommix's career mode. Each driver will be able to take a race-altering special ability, and thanks to leading the team championship, we get to pick first. Obviously this will be a more meaningful choice when racing against human opposition, but we can at least deny Chase Elliott the use of a few of these, based on the red team's low ranking at this point. I don't like spending 10 focus securing a massive braking manoeuvre into a turn, so I'm going to take the Braking Expert ability, which I can cash in at any point to safely secure all of those dice. It'll only be available for use once per race, but make use of it we will. We'll randomly remove a couple more before randomly choosing another one for Chase Elliott, which is the Rain Wizard. A bit ironic after his spin, but going forward he can secure some assortment of dice when in a wet race. Given how rarely he rolls hazards, he probably won't be using this ability, but you never know. He did have horrible rake dice results in the first race, and he did lose one before the second, so it's probably time we head back into BigRed's rules to update our teams. Our win nets us a load more resource points. We now have 9 to spend, and I think 2 of them will be spent to cheer up my pit crew. I know we haven't seen them in action, but they can do a lot with the full rule set. Maybe we'll see that going into the street circuit of Long Beach. Before then, let's see how they're feeling. They've rolled a 2, and that drops to 0 because of their skill level, but it increases to 1 thanks to having gained at least 10 championship points since we last checked in on them. So the final result is that they are disenchanted once more. It's a very good job we paid to cheer them up, because if we didn't, they'd have quit, and we'd be hiring a new pit crew. There are no changes with the rest of the team, which means we've got resources to spend on more spare parts to help us out in qualifying, or, as mentioned, around a more dangerous track like Long Beach, where there is no runoff for anyone who gets into trouble. I think we'll buy 3 more spare parts, leaving us with 4 resource points. Long Beach hosts the 3rd round of the championship, and the heat is back. It's as hot as you can get, and the forecast is for more sun. The unforgiving nature of this circuit means there are fewer green flags in the damage bag, not that we've been dipping into it very often, and the urban characteristic means anyone finding themselves in gear 00 will remain on track, blocking the circuit for anyone following behind. We spent a few spare parts during qualifying to climb up to 5th ahead of Chase, and nothing has fallen off our cars en route to the grid slots, so we are good to get race 3 going. We still want another win, of course, but what will the streets have in store for us? The heat is on and the lights are out, and it's a blistering start for Logano and Elliott, who both jump up 4 places through Bridgestone. Dangerous corners must not be that dangerous to these two as they wind down through the corners, side by side, Logano with his nose in front. Elliott around the outside, but was that a mistake? He's bogged down and Logano can pull out a lead. Behind them it's Adam, Whitmer and Gunon fighting for 3rd. McLaughlin not too far back either. But Logano has crashed. The reroll doesn't help. There's still 3 hazards on that flat out roll and he's got damage to deal with. Elliott no doubt smiling over how easy that overtake was. Logano's trying to keep pace though, now hindered by the loss of some dice. Lurking around is Whitmer, and Adam has crashed too, and so is Kostecki. They're dropping like flies on this opening lap. Logano has crashed again. Massive puff of brake dust followed by a flame. He needs to pit, and he needs to pit now. He's going to have to limp around the track to do so, however. There's not much room around this track, but everyone has managed to pass the unlucky drivers without any problems, and Elliott's lead looks comfortable. Whitmer takes 2nd place, and Adam spins out for a 2nd time. What is going on? As Elliott rounds the hairpin for the end of his first lap, Logano is in the pits, and it's time for his pit crew to shine. For every piece of damage Logano wants to replace, of which there is so many the pit crew don't even have enough dice at hand, the crew rolls a brake die. Logano wants there to be 0 hazards so that he can rejoin the track immediately, but even with 2 rerolls, the veteran pit crew can't quite manage it, and Logano is going to be dumped back into traffic. He's down in 7th now, a disastrous result, but at least he has a functioning dashboard once more. Unfortunately, in order to fend off the cars behind him, he will have to compromise another turn or 2 as he goes into the final hairpin in 5th, just a tad too quick considering how little space there is on it right now. The move pays off though, and he's up to 6th place, and it's not long before he's up to 6th gear as well. Another fast approach into and through Bridgestone. Clearly he's putting his foot down in a desperate attempt to catch up to a podium place, and it doesn't take too long for an orange wall to block up the track and ensure that Logano reclaims 3rd place. Oh, hello, a spin for Elliott as he turns right into the Indy left. Surely he's too far ahead for that to worry him though. Logano and McLaughlin continue to back the field up. McLaughlin edges forward, Logano reclaims the place. Elliott crosses the line for the win incidentally, and McLaughlin parks on the apex once more. Whitmer is too far ahead to catch up as the field thins out. Logano securing 3rd unless there are any more losses of control from him. It's not over yet of course, as Lieb demonstrates with a spin on Seaside Way. We shift focus to Kostecki in search of his first championship point this season. He's currently in 10th place ahead of Buch, but they have been switching positions for a while now as Buch emerges in front and Beretta slowly works his way around the circuit in 12th, and by slowly I mean quickly. He's on Kostecki's bumper as more cars cross the line. Logano, McLaughlin, Gunon from Adam. Can Kostecki do it? He might have the jump on Buch here. Lieb and DeResta side by side over the line, Lieb just getting the better of that contest to finish in 7th. Kostecki isn't in the best of positions going into the final hairpin. Dumas didn't have the best of lines through it, and Buch has claimed the inside, but he too has trouble around the tight line, and Kostecki is going to do it. He's pipped both Buch and Dumas to the line. It's Kostecki in 9th, and Dumas to round out the points in 10th. Elliott closes the championship gap to just 3 points, which is 1 point more than Kostecki has managed to score all season so far, but at least all our drivers have scored something. Buch wishes he could have done a bit better. He just has the edge over Dumas for third in the standings. As for the teams, Orange and Red are tied on 17. Logano and McLaughlin's results putting them ahead, but it's all going down to the wire. Let's manage some teams in the interim. Our mighty comeback from 7th to 3rd has given us 3 more resource points to spend, and our pit crew finally had something to do this week as they spent 4 spare parts repairing the damage that put us into 7th in the first place. They are currently disenchanted, so to keep them happy and employed, we are going to spend 2 resource points to improve their mood, and their role is a natural 1, which means they are going to quit the team regardless. I wonder who is going to get the blame for that. Let's employ a new pit crew then. Another D8 roll of 1 means that the best we can find are a bunch of rookies, so no pit stop rerolls are available. We could spend 3 resource points to get an experienced pit crew, but I think we'd be better if we just didn't crash, so a rookie crew it is. Finally, we'll buy a whole bunch of spare parts with our remaining resource points, leaving the bank empty, the spare parts bin full, and 1 hand on the championship. Jarama is the destination, and more points than Chase Elliott is the goal. It is raining, but the clouds are clearing up pretty quick, so will anyone risk starting on dry tyres? We've got loads of extra bits and bobs lying about this garage that we can spend 5 spare parts and 3 sets of tyres to guarantee first place on the grid. Obviously, this bidding mechanic will turn out differently when playing against humans, but it does leave us with only 3 spare tyres for this race, split across our 2 cars. It's a front row lockout for us, and Elliott is in the middle of the pack in 6th, and in the battle for 3rd overall, Buch has definitely not made his life easier by starting in 12th. On the way to the grid, we wish our veteran pit crew had stayed with us because we've picked up some damage. This is going to be a nail-biting final race. All eyes are on our 2 title contenders, Logano on pole, Elliott back in 6th. The rain is pouring, but the showers are not expected to last long. Nevertheless, all the drivers have chosen wet tyres as we await the start of this final round. We're told that Logano has coast die damage, definitely not ideal around the twisty Jarama circuit. Lights out, and it's a phenomenal start from Elliott as he launches his car from 6th to 2nd, right behind Logano and around the outside on the first corner, and there's no letting up for either driver as they head around Varzi and into Le Mans. Logano has already had to use his braking expert ability to keep Elliott at bay, and behind them it's Buch in 3rd. He's come from last on the grid and he's gone around the outside of our title rivals into 1st place, albeit temporarily as McLaughlin spins further back. The clouds are parting as Di Resta makes a break for the top step of the podium out of Pegaso, and the top 4 cars are clumped together through Ascari. A double spin at the back, Gounon and Adam bring out the yellow flags for the back markers, and it's the other green GT6 of Paul Di Resta who has all the good fortune as he pulls out a lead around the hairpin. Logano looks to have gone on an alternative line. I'm not sure it's going to pay off as Elliott moves into 2nd and now all the way out into 1st. Logano ended up blocking himself there as he sits on the entry to the hairpin in 4th. Elliott stretches his lead further as he heads into Monza. Buch up to 2nd ahead of Di Resta, and Logano has kept 4th. Though there's something not quite right with that picture of Dumas, Kostecki and Lieb, and I'm not talking about the gear markers. Buch has gotten into 1st around Monza, blocking Elliott. Good news for Logano as he tries to keep his rival to within 3 points here, and it gets even better as Di Resta goes and blocks up the circuit as they head down to the final corner. We're 1 lap into our final race and the weather has brightened up, but it has been consistently middling for a while now. It's not raining, but this track isn't drying up. Is anyone going to gamble on a swap to dry tyres? Logano gets the better exit onto the home straight, but it has cost him a lot of focus, and Lieb has been drawn into the fight for 3rd place as well. More good news for Logano there, or it was until that turn by Elliott. He's blitzed past them both and is already rounding Fangio, chasing down 2nd place. Di Resta and Buch through Le Mans, Elliott coming into Varzi, and Logano has to defend from a determined Lieb who has clung to the outside to keep the pressure on, but a switch to the inside at Le Mans will mean he takes the place. Logano slipping further away from the points he needs to secure the championship as they continue their fight into Farina. But Elliott is facing the wrong way before Ascari, have his tyres gone for good. It's a coast and a gear die damage. It could have been worse, but that will give Logano a huge opportunity to catch up. The track is finally starting to look dry. We're going to get a flurry of activity in the pits, I'm sure. But what about our title rivals? Who will blink first? Di Resta leads from Buch. Elliott is back on the track. Logano is just a short distance behind in 4th, fending off Lieb, but his momentum has taken him as far as he needs to go to block Elliott from making any more forward progress for a while, and the task will be to keep him behind at all costs. Again, Lieb is drawn into the fight to complicate matters. Another heavy spend of focus and Logano makes it through the hairpin, hoping Lieb can make things difficult for Elliott. De Resta has crossed the line. Buch from 12th to 2nd is soon to do so as well. But without wanting to sound too harsh, there are bigger things to care about right now, and that's the fact that Lieb has gotten past Logano and Elliott is alongside once more. The damage on both these cars has changed their strategy. Neither driver wants to pit to get onto the dry tyre. There's just no time as they go around the Bugatti S's, and it's Lieb with the advantage into Monza and Elliott getting a better line through than Logano. Lieb will claim the last place on the podium. They're side by side as they cross the finish line. Elliott gets 4th place, Logano home in 5th, and all eyes turn to the championship table to see what those results have done to the standings. And it's Logano who is the champion by a single point. But hold on, Logano is under investigation for an incident on lap 1. That's up at the hairpin when he went onto an alternate line to try and hamper Elliott's progress. It seems he was boxed in by Lieb, Dumas and Kostecki and pushed his way through the hairpin. This isn't rallycross, Joey, you can't be doing that. The stewards have given him a penalty. Kostecki is promoted into 5th place. Joey Logano now loses the championship by a single point to Chase Elliott. Drama at Harama and a champion is crowned. Chase Elliott is your GT6 champion, and all that is left to do is for the teams to wrap up, pack up and prepare for the next season. Under Rommix's rules, it's time to see how well we did with regards to our goals, and if we achieved them, we'd get another ability to make use of in future races. So, did we win at least 2 races this season? Nope, we got just the 1 win, so no bonus ability for us. The red team had the goal to never finish 5th or 6th, and only Chase managed that, so he would get another ability to add to his growing collection. For fun more than anything, I did roll up all the other teams' objectives. The yellow team wanted to be in the top 3 at the end of the season. Neither driver nor the team overall managed that. The green team wanted to finish the season ahead of the yellow team, which they just about managed thanks to De Resta's performances. The blue team wanted to win the season, and they were only a point off the team championship in the end, but that's not good enough for them. And finally, the purple team aimed to never be last in any race, which they failed. Both Whitmer and Beretta came last in 1 race each, so no bonuses for them. From here, Rommix's career mode suggests you move on to bigger and better things, taking your driver up through the ranks to the pinnacle of motorsport, Formula 1. There are files full of Formula 1 dashboards to race on and drivers to race against, should you want to get stuck in. As you can imagine, and perhaps hear in my voice, this has been quite the undertaking for a solo gamer, but it is amazing how different Rallyman feels when you put names to the cars and get invested in the drivers' stories around each circuit. You don't have to make each driver a full NPC either, but you should choose which AI variant to use based on what you want to get out of your time racing against them. O'Daly's driverless cars have rules for pitting, whereas JCB's ghost cars don't, so that alone can make things easier or harder for you depending on how detailed you want your season to be. Speaking of detail, BigRed's full rules include the likes of adjustable aero and fuel management, giving your pit crew even more to do when you decide to come into the pits. If that piques your interest, be sure to check out the rules on Board Game Geek, where you'll find many more variants and circuits to enhance your games of Rallyman. Now that the dust has settled on this championship, it's time to look forward to whatever the future will bring. Any ideas? Thanks for watching Shakedown.